Let's call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody here this evening. And first order of, the first order of business is, as you can see, we're running a little lean this evening. Councillor Thompson and Deputy Mayor Bell send their regrets. They are off, I believe, harvesting some of the Queen's bounty this week. You call it what you want, Miss Cutting. Anyways, they do send their regrets, and of course Councillor Lawrence is still on sick leave. If you will, could you please stand and at your leisure and we're going to take a moment of reflection. Amen. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Council members, is there anyone who has a declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, it can be declared at any time if it does arise. There is no closed session. Comment period. At this point, I would invite if there's any comments, questions from anything on the agenda this evening before we get into the meat of the order. Seeing none, thank you. Public meetings, there's none. Consent agenda. I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, second by Bev Cutting. Be resolved that items A1 to B1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as printed, and further that authorization be given for the actions to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Any questions or comments on this motion? Any questions or comments on? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Hergert? Yeah, you push the button, push start. Just use the other one.
I'd like to pull the Ontario Public Library Week declaration.
Very good. Okay, we'll move that to new business. Anything else on consent? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. There you are, Mark. I'll get you to hand out those motions. That moves us down through the listing of meetings. Communications from Mayor and Council. Is there any communications that anybody has had over the weekend? Councillor Hergert.
So this week is Ontario Public Library Week. We will entertain a discussion later if West Grey in fact actually makes it Ontario Public Library Week for West Grey and recognizes that. But I would suggest that everybody get out to the library and find something going on. It's October. Fines can be paid with food. Lots of activities going on there too. Friday night roller skating in Neustadt went last weekend. It was very nice. Thanks to the rec board for putting that on and all the volunteers that switch up and take turns. It's really fun. Friends of the Library had their book sale this last weekend, and they're selling bags as a fundraiser. It's a cute little library card bag for $25, and they fundraise for activities at the library as well. Congratulations to the Normandy Optimist Murder Mystery, Hotel on the Hill. We have lots of local talent in West Grey and beyond its borders as well. So thank you very much for all of those people. While at the Normandy Arena on Saturday, I heard lots of good comments about the new flooring and the bathrooms and everything being really polished. So thanks so much to all of our staff that look after that as well. Spruce Ridge had a breakfast fundraiser. The kids are headed off on a field trip, class trip to Niagara Falls in the spring. Let's see, what else is going on? So then Sunday, we had Catch the Ace in Durham, and the ace was caught. So that's a fundraiser with the Durham West Grey Lions Club, and that all of those funds raised go towards activities in West Grey as well. So lots going on, lots coming up.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Just a couple items too that's coming up that people might be interested in. Noticed on some of the emails we get that there's a zero waste workshop in Walkerton tomorrow evening at Jubilee Hall. If anyone's interested, I thought I might go over and catch part of that. Sort of interesting to see what they're having to say about that. And as we all know, that this Wednesday is the first day that cannabis will be legal in Canada. So there's lots and lots of discussion on that, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And somewhere along the line soon, council will have to make a decision of whether we're going to have legal retail stores in West Grey. So look forward to that.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Anything else, Bev?
Yeah, the Newstat Craft Show is Saturday, November 3rd. That we don't have a council meeting before that, so just letting everybody know it's from 9:30 to 4 at the community center and the hall. So.
Yes, both. And if you're still hungry after going to the craft show, on Sunday is the Newstead Lions Pork and Kraut dinner as well. Can't miss that. If you want to go to something else, yes, Boots and Bling, the Hospital Foundation fundraiser coming up this coming Saturday. I believe I was talking to Ms. Watson. Oh, I know when it was. It was on Saturday at the Grey County Federation of Agriculture's AGM in Walters Falls. And she said there are a couple of tickets, spot tickets here and there, I believe, that are still for sale. But that's the major fundraiser to help support our hospital and medical clinic here in Durham next Saturday. Boots and Bling, your cowboy boots, your big silver buckle, your cowboy hat. Yeah, you get the picture out there. So. Usually it is, not usually, it's been a very successful evening. A full dinner is there for that as well too. And I did have the opportunity, our Durham Thundercats, the senior hockey team, dropped the official home opener, was on Saturday night, and I believe that my dropping the puck was the highlight of the evening. I see a member of the executive in the crowd, and he still hasn't got over. It didn't go as well as what we had expected for the home team. Let's just put it that way. Wasn't a bad game, but it wasn't good enough to be a victory, so we'll leave it there. One of the other interesting things, I have been to a number of Alzheimer's coffee breaks. A number of individuals out there doing at-home coffee break fundraisers for Alzheimer's. Individuals have opened up their home and have a coffee break, morning coffee break with people, neighbors, different service groups and whatnot. For the disease that it is, great to be able to recognize, and hopefully through the fundraising efforts we can find a cure for the debilitating disease that Alzheimer's is. And I think, yes, Councillor Hergert, you said it right, there is a lot going on right through this coming weekend. Probably a whole lot going on even up until 8:05 next Monday. There's activities happening. Okay, if that's that for communications, get down to delegations. We don't have any today, Mark. Then we're down to staff reports, and yes, Carrie, as you will note, Adam's had to adjust a bit of the seating arrangements here because we're using the council chambers for other activities during the day for the rest of this week. So Carrie is on my right-hand side as of now, and the voucher. Where did that go?
Needs a seconder.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Doug's all by himself down there, so, yeah. Somebody to come one way or the, maybe just leave them down here and the ladies can, yeah, there's two of them here. Anyways, the approval of vouchers, voucher number 19, 2018. It's moved by Doug Hutchison, second by R. Herger. Be resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 19, 2018 in the amount of $383,050.12 of the Municipality of West Grey. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Herger. Rebecca?
Yes, so I have a question on page 51 as it relates to equipment. And one of the questions I had was emission testing on equipment. Are we still going to be bound for equipment emission testing moving forward, or is there any change there?
Defer that through. I don't think we've had that, but go ahead if you, Brent, please.
I'm sorry to clarify that, Councillor Herder. The emission testing is completed in the fall when we do the safeties on
Okay.
the larger trucks.
So I guess
So-
I understood that the province was changing emissions. Is that
But
only
that's
for
only
personal?
that's only for small
Personal.
vehicles. That's
Okay,
not
very
for large
good.
trucks.
Very good. Page 52, there's Viola Water. I was curious, in their contract, I believe that there was a premium on extras, maybe about 10 or 15% on extras.
Don't quote me, but I brought that down to I think about 7 or 8% in the new agreement.
Okay, so that's good. So I was just curious, I was looking at the items that were additional in it. Gloves, wipes, tubing, paper towels, garbage bags. Are those items that we could just buy ourselves locally, or is there is still a premium on getting them, right?
Yes, but I'd have to go back and take a look at the bill because they may be things that they purchased on a purchase order that we have. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Okay, yeah.
we've given them a purchase order book, so for them to go out and buy small materials such as this, I've seen them put it through on a purchase order, so it doesn't catch that
That
7
extra?
or 8%.
Okay.
I'd have to verify that, but
I was hoping that you would verify it because I know it hit all three of them, the Durham Water, Durham Sewer, and it's put on there as additional services. So I was just curious if it did hit that extra percent.
okay, so
Like a premium
I
under
don't
their
I don't
contract.
see a purchase order here, so I'll take a look into it.
Okay. And then is the Newstat Lagoon work completed and on budget? It looks like we're receiving the bills for that, so I was just curious if that work is all done?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay, it's all done and on budget?
Yep, under
Yeah.
budget.
Okay, very nice.
Do you want to say that one again?
Yeah. We don't really
I
hurt.
just want to make sure everybody hears that.
Yeah, we'll quote you on that one. Under budget. Okay.
Page 59 had some GSS engineering. I was curious what the extent of that work was.
Sorry, page 59.
Yes.
Bear with me.
Sure. Bruce Lambton Street Project 17-063 services for August, $2,700?
That's the big capital construction project.
Okay.
So it's interim billing.
Interim billing, okay,
Yes.
very good,
Yeah.
very good. And I think that will be it, actually. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Doug, Councillor
Yeah, I had a
Hutchison.
couple of questions, and I guess maybe more for Brent, too. And I don't think Rebecca asked it. There's something in there about expenses for the Mew Creek. That was the drain sort of thing that
That's
was,
the
yeah.
emergency repair
Right.
and engineering work that
Right.
had to be.
So is that all done now? Like, is that finished and just?
Actually, the temporary work is completed.
Okay.
The temporary work that was required by the Ministry of Environment wanted to proceed to, so what we did
Yeah.
is we placed concrete, broken concrete, along the outside of the bank in the vicinity, general vicinity of the area that was, had the most liability of collapsing into the stream. So we protected that, and the ongoing engineering for the permanent repair is still being undertaken.
Okay, so there's going to be some more work to be done there
There will
yet?
be definitely, yes, a lot more work, yeah.
Okay, okay. And just a question on page 64, it talks about street lighting expenses, and I know we had this discussion before, but I just wondered, with Glenelg street lighting, what is there besides, is that 23 and 4, that's one light, there's one light there, right? Is there more street lights in Glenelg?
That would be a county light. That would be county at 23 and 4. Yeah.
So what other street lights are in Glenelg?
I don't know how far Durham Road East goes out, but there's those lights out Durham Road East. I believe there's one at the, there's a couple of single lights that are out
Just
that
on,
area.
on the end of the Durham Road East section there? Okay,
One in front of the, I believe, the Sauging, or the Conservation Park.
okay, that's our light, okay, that's
There's
not,
one
that's not
there,
theirs.
there's,
Might be Marshall,
sorry.
might be Marshall Heights. Subdivision of Marshall Heights.
Marshall Heights has its own account. You're looking at,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just said Glenelg street lighting, but I just wondered, like, it was $450, and I thought, compared to the other street lights, it was quite high, and I thought, I wasn't sure what all lighting that was. And whether we've converted to LEDs, maybe it got missed or something, you know.
it was all captured back 3 years ago when
we did the
Real
others.
Term completed the survey of all of West Gray.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah, okay. I just thought that seemed high, $450 compared to all the other ones that were listed there were quite low. So there must be a few lights there somewhere.
it could be one, hang on a second. Markdale.
There's a couple on Ford Drive and Glenwood.
Forbes.
Glenwood.
And Glenwood Place, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay,
If
and
there's
there's
street
couple
lights
more.
there, those are ours, and
Yeah.
that would have been captured into, those are just ones I can quickly think of.
23? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, so there's just a mishmash of different ones around that all comes together there for that costing. Okay, that's fine. I just wondered how many lights that were. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Any other questions on the accounts? Call the question, and all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Second one, Carrie, is the Durham Activity Center, the equipment. Anything further on that? The quotes are there, they've gone through. They're holding, the reserve fund is held with the municipality. So wishing to purchase, I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, second by R. Hergert, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Gray hereby approves the quotation from Matrix in the amount of $11,063.40 plus HST for equipment purchases with funding to be transferred from the Durham Activity Center Capital Reserve. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Hergert, Rebecca?
One quick question. It says shipping notes, that it's going to be shipped to Mississauga. So I was just curious how we'll get it right up here to West Gray. Will somebody from the activity center be picking it up? Or?
The equipment has already arrived. It's drop shipped to their Mississauga plant or store, and then the salespeople bring it up.
Oh, okay, so it's already been delivered, no further costs to that at all. Okay,
No.
great, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Adjusting down there? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Anything else, Carrie?
Oh, that's everything.
That's all? Any questions for Carrie? Usually in these meetings, Carrie would be off to curling, but that hasn't quite started yet. Another month. Okay?
Snowball.
Maybe we'll pickleball down in Newstead. Okay. Brent, down to the infrastructure, public works report. And what's the first one, Brent? Is the fill bylaw. Anything else to explain or report there? Any questions for Mr. Glacier? Go ahead, Rebecca. Councillor Herget.
So let's get to the bylaw here. What page are we? Sorry, I'm just filling through. 95, okay. So I do have some concerns as it relates to the different pieces of legislation, ensuring that we're not overstepping what we have to do and really making sure we're doing exactly what we need to do to protect the land. So at Committee of the Whole the other day, there was discussion that that trucks are coming in, bringing fill. We don't know where it's from. We didn't know what it was. So now you've had an opportunity to investigate that?
You want to use your microphone, please, Brent?
Yes, Councillor Hergert, the Ministry of Environment, I just found out actually today that the Ministry of Environment, through an email, have said that the fill is in compliance with the regulations. So there's no issues with respect to the fill.
Okay. So from start to finish on that, how long did it take us to use the provincial Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks as it goes? That was a week and a half ago we brought it up to committee. And now we have a resolution
yeah,
where
2
they've
weeks ago or
already
whatever,
solved
yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
So I guess my concern is that if we have a bylaw about this, then we're on the hook for enforcing it as well. The penalties in this case are far less than the actual, than the amounts to get a permit. So I don't think that we're going to have great compliance with it if it's $100 or $200 if somebody's doing the wrong thing. And to do the right thing is $1,000 and $10,000 retainer and all the reports and so on. I think it becomes really onerous for us to have to enforce when we already have the provincial legislation there and actually an enforcement mechanism that within a week and a half was able to be resolved. So I think we're biting off a little too much here as it is. I think the first bylaw that you brought us was too much. This seems to be scaled back and more focused, but it still seems like it's quite onerous for us to have to enforce with our single bylaw person. And the erosion and sediment control plans that we're requiring in here are going to just be further costs to development and further cost to us. And I know that it works through the deposit that whoever is moving the fill and so on, they've got to put the deposit into us and we draw from that. I understand that. But I'm still thinking that it doesn't get this entire bylaw that we have in front of us, like 3.1G talks about locally sourced fill. And it doesn't even address the current situation of fill that's beyond local. And if we were going to describe local, is that 50 kilometers? Is that 100 kilometers? I think there's a lot more that we could do on this to make it really tidied up so people know exactly what we're looking for here. I know at Committee of the Whole, we discussed even using the roads, making sure that the roads are clean, that they're not too heavy, you know, the trucks and so on. But I think there's a couple pieces of information that we should pull from different areas and bring together. I'm not in favor of this as it is right now. I'd like to see that we're able to do more than just enforce afterwards. I think it's going to be a lot for our one bylaw person to be able to get at.
Go ahead, Brent.
If I can add, Councillor Hergert, development is restricted by erosion control measures and things like that. Anybody that has development, those laws or legislations are already put into place. People that place in the fill should be obligated under the same guidelines that they have to put up silt fencing and things like that to protect the runoff of silt entering into a creek, wetlands, or anything like that. So my biggest concern is the road infrastructure, that we have nothing in place to secure, to make sure that the people that are bringing in these large loads, we have nothing to protect ourselves liability-wise, or anything like that. That was the reason why I wanted to introduce it, is solely only to protect West Grey in the case of a incident that could have very gone wrong last week when the mud was strewn onto the road. A car loses control and the person gets injured. That would have came back on us. The other people would have been dragged into it, but I guess I'm just looking at something that is going to protect West Grey moving forward, and that was kind of hence the reason for expediting something through. You know, this could, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to leave it like that. That was the whole premise behind my thoughts on this. So,
Any other questions? Go ahead. Okay, while you're thinking about it, Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Yeah, I personally, I think it's a good idea because as we know, there's a lot of development going on south of here, and I wouldn't want West Grey to become a dumping ground for fill from other areas that they just want to get rid of. So I think it's a good idea that we have some kind of control on it. I agree that I think with this plan that I know where you're coming from, Councillor Hergen, in terms of the MOE be involved, but they really don't have anything to do much with our roads and our infrastructure. So to be able to control the traffic on our roads and have some kind of deposit that if we have to do some work on our roads, at least we have something to fall back on. So I think that's important in this piece. And it is municipalities around us also have, like this is Southgate, so you know. We're maybe one of the few that don't have some kind of fill bylaw, so I think it's maybe something that we should get in place. And maybe it's not 100% right now, but we can be tweaked as time as we go forward. And I'm just wondering how this works in terms of retroactive, in terms of the group that we just had this issue with. So they're not really going to fall under this bylaw at this point, or are they?
they would fall under it if council passes this. They would fall under it tomorrow, meaning that we would require insurance, deposit, and the other things in the lot grading or whatever engineered plans.
And do we know have they done any of that?
Well,
previously?
Based on the conversation that we had with the contractor this afternoon, I believe a lot of that stuff is in place.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Your Worship, but one of the things that's lacking in here that was kind of brought to our attention, and it's something that could be included, is, and this is a possible revenue source, because West Grey could impose a fee of so many dollars per load that is being trucked in from outside the jurisdiction, outside West Grey's boundaries. So there's an opportunity that, I'm not saying that we're going to open the door and have tons of fill brought in, but because we're limited on what we can do with it. So, but there could be an opportunity that this could be a revenue, not a big, huge pot of gold, but a revenue source that would come back into the road coffers to.
Especially with the, I know that the rules and regulations are, but with some of the gravel pits that we have that they're excavating, I don't know, they have to fill it with topsoil at the end, but what they put back in there, maybe there's some opportunities.
Well, is brought up, good point, to that point is we charge for gravel to leave the gravel pits. We should be charging fill that comes into our jurisdiction. So it's something that was brought to our attention, and it may be something that we could introduce as a fee schedule that we would charge so many dollars per load, and it goes up by the consumer price index annually, or reviewed, is reviewed by council annually to determine whether or not it would be subjected to increase in a levy, if you want to call it that.
Okay. Further, Councillor Hurd.
So after reading this, I still have no idea how far is local. I mean, really, we talk about local fill in here, but it doesn't have a definition. Is that only within West Grey that we're using? Or if we get to Wellington, is that out? Or we get over to Grey Highlands and they're bringing fill
I guess
this way?
to take out the word local, we say within the boundaries of West Grey.
So now we can only move fill around from around West Grey.
We would require,
A permit beyond that.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I honestly, the fines are cheaper than the rules being, to be on the right side of it. So I really disagree with this. I think it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to what has happened already. And then further to that is the MOE already had approved the material to be brought in, right? The material was fine. So I think if we wanted to scale this back to routes that are being hauled on and deposits and insurance for that, I think that would be more acceptable. But as it is right now, I think it's too far reaching, and it really doesn't get at what we need it to. Let's go the exemptions, 3A. Why wouldn't we have any exemptions under the Environmental Protection Act there? This doesn't quite catch what we need it to do. The last paragraph about repealing and where we're getting stuff from. I think there's more work to be done on this. At this time, I won't be supportive.
Okay. Councillor Cunning, Bev?
There's a couple of questions I have. On page 109, under G, would be 3G. It says here, during performance of a site alteration, perform the following minimum inspections and procedures. And I'm thinking directly of the road condition that was on Glenelg Road 23 the last few days. It says in 1, at least once per day scrape all highways that have been fouled. But then in 3, it says at least once each week on Friday night or Saturday morning, clean all highways that have been fouled. So we're asking them to do it every day, but then we're re-asking them to do it Friday night and Saturday morning as well. So I think the 3 can be taken out, and at least once per day that they are out there making sure that the roadway's clear. You see where I am, Brent?
Yeah. Are you looking at 3G?
Yeah. 1 and 3, like they're contradictory to each other. One is saying every day, one's saying once a week for doing the same thing. Or am I reading it wrong?
No, I'm trying to decipher it.
Go under Schedule C.
Schedule C. Mm-hmm.
It's saying sort of double, but one's every day and one's once a week. It should be done every day.
It should be done as many times as the inspector sees fit
Yeah.
per
But at
day.
least once a day.
Yeah.
It says at least once per day in 1, and I think that's probably, you take out 3, because once a week, they can look at that and say, well, I did it once a week.
Is it the terminology that's in there? One is scrape, once every day. The other one says clean. So, and at times,
But is it different?
is it different?
Scrape, yeah, scrape is using abrasive activity. The other one, let me read it again. Clean is sweeping. I would take that to be sweeping. So it doesn't actually say that, but I mean, cleaning means using water, sweeping, whatever, to remove the residue. Thank you for pointing that out.
I think that
But
would
that
get
wording
at the
should be
dust.
cleared or clarified.
Yeah, just so it doesn't look like it's,
I think that should be abrasive cleaned by either sweeping or mechanical or flushing.
and the other one is if you're just going to go through this and under on page 1, sorry,
Oh, 3G. Yep.
on page 100, in under 10, severability, 10.1, your word provision is, well, not in the bylaw, there's 2 1s instead of 2 I's for provision. It's just, yeah, it's a format thing. The first line there, particular provision,
I'm sorry,
It's
what
got-
number again? I'm sorry, Beth.
10.1.
Because-
10.1, under severability.
Oh,
Formatting from PDF.
Yeah, it just needs to be,
Word to PDF. or
take them to
PDF
I
and
instead of
Word.
ones. And I also did not notice anywhere in here, anything about signage, about what signs the company has to put up for security and safety, like, for example, the knoll and turning, do they need a truck turning sign? Or is that up to, like, Tim would go out and say, we want these signs placed here, but I did not read anything in here for safety, for signage, so I think that needs to be added in also.
no, good point.
Yeah. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
Okay. This bylaw is very similar to what, well, it's not similar, it's pretty much poached from Southgate.
Yes, it is, Your Worship.
So you get down to section 15. How much of this still is Southgate's bylaw?
Apologize for that.
There's a couple of changes
There
that
are
we
some-
haven't quite got
There
out
are
of
some
there.
wording changes, yes, Your Worship, yes.
Yeah. Instead of Egremont, Broughton, and Dundalk, how about we go with Bentinck, Glenelg, and Normanby? A couple of things, but there is one question, if I could, from the chair. 9.1, I mean, contraventions of the bylaw, the fines there are considerably more than what is in the fee schedule. And I think the fine schedule must, from Southgate's perspective, must follow things along on their use of the roadway. I don't know. Because it refers to 2.1, 6.4, 8.5, but in the bylaw itself, at 9, the fines there are considerably more. I think we've had a pretty good discussion, and looks like, you know, there needs to be a few other, there may be other questions as we deal down through this. But I'm wondering if council, on introduction, we could introduce this bylaw to get the process, get first and second reading, and make some of those adjustments and bring it back for final if it wants to go through committee of the whole before we see it back. November 5th, I think, Mark, is the next council meeting. After we've all had a lot of pork and kraut, that'll be a good day. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and the committee of the whole is before Halloween. I think it's, and I'd just like to say thank you to Brent for finding and working with some of his partners on coming up. It's going to be a little bit different. As he did say, we did meet, Brent and I met with a couple of the contract that are working with this project. We were assured, and they had all of the Ministry of Environment. Any of this fill that's coming out comes, is it table 1 to table 6 is the classifications. Table 1 is clean fill, and this all qualifies as clean fill. It's all certified by the Ministry of Environment and their engineering from GFL in Toronto before it leaves Toronto as being table 1 material. And they had the assurances and the certificates for that already. So that part, but there's just other issues in bringing it in. Rebecca.
I was just going to say, Can we give Brent some direction on the few things that we would like to see come back? To Bev's point, the signage, if they're going to be using any of our roads, we got to have a signage. You'll have the route already organized, right? I guess from there, the penalties if they're not on route and stuff like that too. We should know those items.
Yeah, I think the route, and that may come in more in the signage and whatnot, is the haul route. Developing that haul route agreement, it'd be very similar to what we do with aggregate pits, that this is the haul route, not what the pit owner wants to take, what we want them to take on. And I think that that could be developed in that, if they make the application, part of it would be defining a haul route. So we're okay there. Doug?
I just wondered, since this doesn't apply to this situation that we're talking about, do we know any details in terms of this, the situation on 23? Is this like a one-shot deal? Are they going to be done in next week? How many loads, how many tons are we looking at? Do we know any particulars, or is it an ongoing thing? Do we know where we're at?
Your worship, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're about halfway done. I thought there was,
That was the understanding I had and over the weekend did speak with the property owner, and that's his understanding is there's about 400 loads in and there'd be 800 load. Yeah.
Where they're putting this, so where they're putting this fill then, is it like, is this going to be a field that's going to be usable after they're done, or is it just
yeah.
That is,
put topsoil on top?
It's to make the land more arable for the farmer. I guess there must have been some very deep crevices and gullies on his property that he wanted to fill it up, so it makes it a lot easier to farm the land, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. Bev?
Sure, now you made me forget.
You've got a pen, write it down.
I know, yeah.
Okay. We can move on. Rebecca?
In this situation, an ag application, this still wouldn't even apply. This bylaw, as it's written, it still wouldn't even apply, right? Nothing to do with farming, right? We wouldn't even be getting a permit for something like this.
Were you,
Like ag was exempted?
No, it still
still
wouldn't
in
be
this one?
exempted.
agriculture will be exempted if you wanted to move some topsoil around on your property?
Right, less
Yeah.
than
Yeah,
6
but-
inches.
Yeah.
But in this case, it would apply because it's more than 6 inches deep, right?
I'm sorry, the question was that you're wondering if they can remove the topsoil,
No.
or,
The amount of fill that they're bringing in
Yeah.
would require this. But if it were ag, less than 6 inches of soil, then it wouldn't apply, right? So if they only brought in 20 truckloads for a whole 100 acres and it's less than 6 inches, then we would never even have an application for it anyway, right?
unless he's bringing in all topsoil, which I don't think that would ever happen, but,
But we're not trying to slow up ag-related
No.
processes, right? So,
No.
and then how are we fitting this into our building permit, using the joint building department and so on? I mean,
but I think in here, I'm pretty sure it says that new buildings and things are exempt from this process.
within
On-
10 meters of an open building permit.
Well, within
10
the lot
Yeah,
grading
but
plan,
actually, it's
that
10
is-
meters, so 10 meters isn't very far. Like, if you're gonna run septic lines, you're not even gonna be able to have, I mean, you potentially could, but you could potentially be into a permit, and that's in addition to the septic permit and the building permit you've already applied for as well.
Yeah, I need to investigate this a bit more and,
Okay, so at this time, I won't be
because what I'm
supporting it,
thinking of.
but we
what
can
I'm
work
think-
on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the only one you have, Brent?
Yeah, one more.
Sorry.
It's just a,
Yeah, the Narmby, sorry, I'm sorry, yeah, the Narmby landfill. Okay, yes, Yes. So they're cutting.
There was discussion about asking the owners of the company to radio the trucks so that they were not lined up on Glenelg Road 23 and causing issues. Was that discussed, and is that going to be?
Yes, it is, Councillor Cutting.
And they will be staging on site. The driveway's been extended so that everything will be on site instead of using the roadways. Okay? All right. The next one then, Brent, would be extending the Normanby landfill transfer station operations. We've spoke of this. We have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, second by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves keeping the Normanby transfer station open until April 1st, 2019. Any questions or comments? Start, Bev. Councillor Cutting.
So the original cost that we had for Normanby transfers from Waste Management was $790 a month or something to transfer, is that correct? In there.
Ish.
Yeah, in there. What are the other foreseeable costs that you see other than that?
There's a
Except for
there's
staffing.
recycling, there's the recycling pickups. There's a fee for that. And I had that all, I didn't bring my sheet with me, but of course there's the labor wages.
Right.
Waste management fees for the pickup of the garbage, recycling, and I think that's it.
Okay.
Because all the other components, like the tires and the white metal and things like that is picked up free. Like we get a revenue, that's a revenue for us. So,
And there will be sites to put that in still in Normanby?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll have
The
one
only-
person there?
Sorry?
One person?
Yes, yes. The only thing that's changed with respect to the Normanby landfill is that there's no large refuse allowed and no more compost because, and the reasoning for that is we would have to bring equipment in there to move the compost around and to burn and stuff like that. So I decided, we'll just keep it as a basic, transfer station, and the compost will have to go up to either Bannock or Durham.
And I had a very interesting comment the other day, and what it was that somebody told me that they always took their garbage to the dump because it was cheaper, because garbage pickup at the roadside is user pay, and so since they didn't use it, they didn't pay for it, and they felt it much cheaper, and even at $5 a bag was going to be cheaper to still take it to the garbage, and I just shook my head. I said, I don't know where you got that from, but garbage pickup is paid throughout the municipality by everyone. It's on your taxes, and they were quite shocked. They thought it was a user pay system. So as much as you try and get the word out there, sometimes there's one person or two people that just don't understand, so. I said that so that everybody will maybe.
Rebecca, Councillor Hurd.
So to that end, can we update the website as well with current information and when it would be open till? And then signage would need to be changed. And can we give an email blast out then too to everybody? That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Guess we've thought how you're going to vote on this one, because we haven't asked to vote yet there, Councillor Hurd.
Actually, just one last
Further?
thing, Your
Go
Worship.
ahead, Brent.
I heard you say the motion, but it's, they would say remain open till April 1st, but I'm wondering if you want to add the words and then be evaluated at that point in time, because it's sending the message out there again that it's going to close. So I just want to make sure that the people get the right message that we're going to reevaluate, or, sorry,
Well, it was your motion that we put in front here, but I'll let the wordsmithing be done by the clerk. If the mover and second are fine with it. Yeah. In your executive summary is Councillor Hutchison saying that, you know, on the feasibility, operating efficiencies and the feasibility, but we'll put it, it seems that the mover and seconder are fine with adding subject to further evaluation. That's good. So I'll read the motion once more. Moved by Bev Cutting, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves keeping the Normanby Transfer Station open until April 1st, 2019, subject to further evaluation. Okay. No further comments. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. There you are, Mark. Any other questions? Any comments, Brent? No? Any other questions for the director? Then Mark is passing out, we're down to bylaws. And Mark is passing out the motions to get those ones going. Yep, that's 15. If you signed one with your right hand and one with your left hand, would that be two different people down there, Doug? Okay, we'll wait until we get them back here. Yeah. Doug couldn't find anybody else, so. Yep. 16. Right there. 16. There should be one more confirming 120. No. Okay. All right, we'll start with bylaw 115. This is a bylaw from the Planning, Committee of the Whole Planning. Yeah, not Committee of Adjustment, Committee of Whole Planning, and it was recommended for approval. Motion moved by R. Herget, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 115, 2018, being a bylaw to rezone lands described as part lots 11 and 12, concession 6, RP 16R7185, part 2, former township of Gunnell, Ann Watson and Ryan Ellingwood, Garden Suite, Granny Flat, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any further comments? Rebecca? Councillor Herger?
I was curious if we were going to have an agreement registered on title with this. I know that there was discussion the other day at our Committee of Adjustment meeting, just whether or not it was in the cluster, but there was no site plan agreement attached, and there was no deposit for removal. Nothing about renewal. If at that time, 20 years from now, we get down the road and they apply for a renewal, there was no agreement to that effect.
Well, I think the bylaw was prepared in the way that it was described at
Committee of Adjustments.
Committee of Planning, Committee of the Whole Planning, right? And there was some comment that in further, at some time from the planner, as I remember it, not by any, we hadn't entertained that.
Right.
So the planner said maybe further on down the road that some of that be incorporated but there was no recommendation or any comment from committee to have that in for this one.
Okay, so to that, I would like to say that I think we do need to have agreements on these. This is maybe our third one. Each one is unique in every bit, right? So I would like to see that we have agreements on title for, I mean, we ended up having a problem last year with allowing one of these granny flats, and then it wasn't put in the location that we wanted, and the only enforcement that we had was a bylaw officer. And it came down to a lot of time spent on it, and I really think that 20 years from now, when nobody else is at this table, it would be great to have an agreement registered on title. It also might clear up any potential severances in the future. We know sitting at this table that that's not allowed for, but just by having the secondary unit there. But it would be good if it was registered on title so that forever forward, people that are purchasing have notice of it.
Would that be something that at our next planning meeting, I think we could discuss, because that wasn't the way it was approved from the planning committee to come forward to us, the recommendation. So I
Okay.
see where you're going,
Yeah.
but to be able to get there and some of the legalities of a temporary and how it's going to be registered on title and whatnot, and have staff, and that should be a discussion November 12th, I think, that we have the next planning meeting.
Fine.
Okay.
Yep, fair.
Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Maybe just a correction, Councillor Herger, I think in that situation where we had a problem, it was a case that they did not apply to even have a granny flat. They put a driveway in where they weren't allowed, so there was a little more to it than just that. So, but I agree, it's probably a good idea to have some kind of agreement on title that we can refer to in the future.
Okay.
So that's right. It came to us and there was no application, but once we had said it needs to be within the cluster, we still didn't even get cooperation on that. And we passed a bylaw saying, okay, we'll allow it and we're giving you 30 days. And we were not, they were not complying at that point then either, right? So then we had given the okay with the restrictions and it was still discarded.
That was the zoning bylaw, but we've got it. It did come to a resolve. That was settled. Okay? Anything further? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Yeah. Okay. Bylaw 116 has also been recommended for approval excuse me, by the planning, committee of the whole planning, and there was some amendments to this, Mark, before I introduce it?
Before it was recommended for approval, there was some change of the, part of the zoning was an R2 zone, which allows for a mix of either single or semis or townhouses, and it was requested to go to an R3 zone to allow townhouse units. So I think it was a positive move. It does increase perhaps the affordability, affordable housing, and also intensification of in the urban area, which is promoted by the county official plan and provincial policy statement.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Mark. So the motion's moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 116, 2018, being a bylaw to rezone lands described as parts of Divisions 2 and 3 of Lot 24, Concession 1, EGR, Geographic Township of Glenelg, John Welton Custom Home Building Limited, Sunvale Homes, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, thank you. Bylaw 117. And this one is also recommended for approval by the Planning Committee. Is the pardon, Mark? the deeming bylaw, yes, on another rural subdivision in Bentig. I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, seconded by R. Herger. Be it resolved that bylaw number 117, 2018, being a bylaw designating lands described as Plan 1097, Lot 11, excuse me, S/T, right in R341323 West Gray, part of PIN number 37215-0070, LT, Geographic Township of Bentic, within the Municipality of West Gray. Comma, right? Not to be on a registered plan of subdivision, Jacko Forest Creek Estates subdivision, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, be engrossed in the bylaw book. As I said, this was recommended from planning. Further? Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
So, I'm not sure if I totally understand what this is doing here. Can you explain, Mark?
Yes, it's called a deeming bylaw when, it's a bit of a quirk in the Planning Act, when there's lots in a plan of subdivision, those lot fabrics are changed, you have to pass a deeming bylaw so that they're deemed not to be part of the plan of subdivision. So this is in effect what it's doing is to facilitate the proposed severance, which is a lot addition. So this deeming bylaw, if passed, will be registered on title. That cost will be at the cost of the developer.
So
Go further, Doug, go ahead.
So that one house that had the
well.
the well on it, so that's not part of the subdivision even now, like classified, but it's within the subdivision, but it's not
Yes,
part of
correct.
that.
And I
Yeah.
believe they're both vacant lots at this point.
So there is a house on.
Is there, okay, so
There is a house on
that's
one. I
Yeah,
thought.
there's some type of a
Yeah.
building.
in lot 14, I gather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
but that exempts these two out of the subdivision, as Mark said. Okay? To clarify that problem on the well. Okay? Any further questions or clarifications? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Bylaw number 118 is to rezone lands in the same subdivision. I have a motion moved by R. Herget, second by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that bylaw number 118, 2018, being a bylaw to rezone lands described as Plan 1097, Lot 11, and part of Lot 14, former Township of Bentig, Jacko Developments, Inc., be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Mark, on the amendment.
East Ogden Valley Conservation Authority actually requested an amendment to the existing, or the initial bylaw. Lot 11, which was the lot being, the little parcel that was being added to, had a bit of natural environment zone on the property. The Conservation Authority actually indicated that that natural environment zone should be removed from that lot. So that was done through this amendment.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Bylaw number 119. Maybe somebody else to second that one. Okay. This one was recommended from Committee of the Whole to establish the terms of reference for committees moving forward. I have a motion moved by R. Herget, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that bylaw number 119, 2018, being a bylaw to establish terms of reference and mandate for certain advisory and local committees, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Declare that one carried. Bylaw number 120. This was the one, the fill bylaw, that we were having discussion earlier with. I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 120, 2018, being a bylaw to prohibit and regulate the placing or dumping of fill, the removal of topsoil, and the alteration of grades of land within the municipality of West Grey, be now read a first and second time. That's all. Yep, first and second. Okay, because there are some, I believe, some work, so we can move that if we can get some work done on this bylaw and then have it brought back. All right? All those in favor? Any opposed? Declare that carried. Okay. Bylaw 121 is confirming bylaw, moved by Bev Cutting, second by R. Herget. Be it resolved that bylaw number 121, 2018, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the October 15th, 2018 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on the confirming bylaw? Call the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. New business. Rebecca, Councillor Herget.
So I would like us, West Grey, to acknowledge that this week is Ontario Public Library Week, October 14th to 20th, and to declare the week being Ontario Public Library Week, and encourage everyone to go out and check out a library venue, a book, a CD on tape, whatever you do, just go check it out. There's programming, all kinds of stuff. I'm very happy to move this.
Okay. Yeah, because it was under consent, that's right. Notice of motion. Yep.
Actually, you don't even have to go to the library. You can go online and do their little Libby app, okay? So you don't even have to go to the library, but check out what they have there.
The Who app?
Libby, L-I-B-B-Y.
Oh, okay.
Librarian.
Okay. I have a motion moved by R. Herget, seconded by Bev Cutting. Resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby declares the week of October 14th to the 20th as Ontario Public Library Week. Any questions or comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Very good. All right. That's it for new business, Mark. That's all that we had pulled. No. Addendums. Any notice of motion or direct motions? There was none indicated. Seeing none. There's no closed session. Question period. At this time, if there's anything on the agenda that was discussed this evening, we could have questions. And if I could ask you to go to the mic so that Adam can record that. Floor is yours, Steve. Mr. Townsend.
Should be on.
No, the little button.
How's that one?
is-
That better?
There you go. Now you got it. Yep.
Sorry, this is to do with landfill.
Yeah.
You're talking about blasting out an email, and during the election activity that's going on, there's a lot of people saying, I don't get it. I don't get the notice if it's in the tax bill. I don't get it if it's online. I don't have a computer. So will you commit to actually putting something in the paper or another way of getting it out? So that's my first question. My second one is that when you read what is in your report, Brent, it says that you're going to close it keep it open until April 1st, and then you'll reevaluate efficiencies. But I thought there was a commitment at the September 18th meeting to actually do some investigation into efficiencies prior, and then potentially even keep it on longer than that. Right, so those are really the 2 points I wanted to raise and find out, are you going to do the evaluations before? And then, of course, that leads to the final question, which says, depending what you're going to do, I'm going to ask, does that in fact meet the commitments that you made at the September 18th landfill meeting? So, all right.
Well, I think I can answer the first one. We'll do our best to have even flyers handed out. I think would be a suggestion at the landfill for those that are. There's a lot of repeat customers, I guess is the best way to say it. So throughout, we'll work with Bill on having a flyer there and notification there. Take the opportunity to see what other information is needed or required to get this out over the next number of weeks and months. And I certainly do believe that the idea was not start collecting the information, but make an evaluation as we're going forward. I know we certainly have been collecting information, Brent, and certainly our landfill attendant at the Normanby on usage and how we can, what is or where the numbers are and what the use is. And we'll keep going forward with that. And if there are any, I would hope is in any program that the municipality has, that we have a way of identifying or coming up with efficiencies and better ways of operation. The third one, Brent? Well, there was three. I know there was three. Doesn't mean the commitments you made at the last. As well. Go ahead. Push the button down.
Sorry. No, Steve, no, that it's going to be evaluated monthly. We're not going to wait until the very end to come up with an answer. That does read wrong. That wasn't my intent. I'm going to be on it monthly to look at, especially now that we've put in place the new tipping fee schedule. I'd like to see how that is working out and whether it's going to offset, defray some of those costs that were originally identified when we
But I
first
think
looked at it.
the question, the third question was, does this identify or cover the commitments we made at the landfill meeting on September the 18th at the arena?
I believe so, yes.
And I'm
Yes.
thinking that it will. Yes. Good. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Callie.
Just also on the waste, it was brought to my attention that the scrap metal bin and the e-waste bin were removed from Normanby. And it's conversations that I had while out canvassing, they were wondering if they were going to come back.
I didn't know that there was a scrap metal bin there. I thought the steel was, we're still accepting scrap metal. It's on this fee schedule posted at the front of the Normanby landfill. The green, or the
E-waste.
electronic recycling, green,
Enclosed bin.
the company that is picking up, I'm sorry, I'm lost for words. The company that is picking up our e-waste took the, removed that shipping container from there because it was constantly being broken into. And we spent a lot of money on locks, and they're coming in and grinding the locks off. So they gave up and said, we're removing that shipping container. We're still accepting e-waste there. It's just being piled, and then our staff are going to go in and load it and take it to another facility to remove. Okay?
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Very good. Municipal Act notices, Mark. I don't believe there are any. Then we're down to the final question. Whom? Yeah, there's nobody down here except Doug, and he wants to stay all night, so I'll look to this side. Councillor Herget and Councillor Cutting, move that we adjourn. All those in favor? Declare we are adjourned. Thank you very much.